If you've ever walked away from a conversation feeling small, confused, doubting your own memory, I need you to hear me right now. That is not weakness. That is emotional manipulation. And today I'm going to show you 5 smart moves that instantly weaken a narcissist, not with revenge, not with cruelty, but with clarity, boundaries, and power. Here's the truth no one tells you: narcissists do not thrive on strength. They thrive on reaction. They feed on your emotional chaos, your anger, your tears, your desperate need to explain yourself. The moment you understand that, the entire game changes. You see, a narcissist's greatest weapon isn't intelligence or charm, it's emotional control. They provoke, they distort, they deny, they rewrite history while looking you straight in the eye. And if you respond emotionally, they win every time. But when you shift your energy, when you stop playing the role they assign to you, something fascinating happens. Their power begins to crack. This isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming grounded. It's about refusing to perform in someone else's emotional circus. The moves I'm about to share are not loud. They are not dramatic, but they are devastatingly effective. And the first smart move starts with something so simple it almost feels too easy. But I promise you, it changes everything. The first move that instantly weakens a narcissist is this: stop explaining yourself. I know that sounds almost unfair because you're a reasonable person. You believe in clarity. You believe that if you just say it the right way, calmly enough, thoroughly enough, they'll finally understand. But here's the brutal truth. They already understand. They just don't agree. And they don't need to agree to respect a boundary. When you over-explain, you hand them ammunition. Every extra sentence becomes something they can twist. Every justification becomes an opening for debate. And narcissists love debates they can't lose, especially the ones where the goalpost keeps moving. You say, I can't come because I'm tired. They say, tired from what? You were fine yesterday? So you explain more and more. And suddenly, you're defending your right to rest. Do you see what happened? The power shifted. When you stop explaining, you remove the stage. You say, that doesn't work for me. Period. No footnotes. No emotional essay. No courtroom defense. And it will feel uncomfortable. Your body will want to fill the silence. You'll feel the urge to justify. That discomfort is withdrawal from the old dynamic. Narcissists depend on your need to be understood. When you let go of that need, they lose leverage. Clarity without explanation is power. And when you master that, something inside you stands taller. Now let's talk about the second move, the one that makes them even more unsettled. The second move that instantly weakens a narcissist is this: control your emotional reaction. Let me be clear. I am not telling you to suppress your feelings. I am telling you to stop performing them for someone who weaponizes them. A narcissist studies your emotional patterns like a playbook. They know what tone will trigger you. They know which insecurity to poke. They know when to smirk, when to go silent, when to accuse. And the moment you explode, cry, over-defend, or spiral, they feel powerful. Why? Because reaction equals control. If they can control your emotional state, they feel significant. If they can make you lose composure, they feel superior. It's not about the argument. It's about domination. So when you respond with calm neutrality, something radical happens. Imagine this: they criticize you unfairly. Instead of defending yourself, you say calmly, I hear you. And then nothing, no escalation, no emotional fireworks, no frantic explanation. That silence is terrifying to them. Your calm becomes a mirror, and they cannot stand mirrors. This isn't easy. Your nervous system will want to fight back. You'll feel the heat rising in your chest. But that pause, that breath, that choice not to react is where your power lives. Calm is not weakness. Calm is controlled strength. When they can't provoke you, they can't predict you. And when they can't predict you, they can't control you. And now we move to the third move, the one that shifts the entire dynamic in ways they never expect. The third move that instantly weakens a narcissist is this: set a boundary once and refuse to defend it. Listen carefully. A boundary is not a negotiation. It's not a debate. It's not an invitation for feedback. It is a statement of self-respect. Narcissists do not fear your anger. They do not fear your tears. They fear your limits. When you say, I'm not okay with being spoken to that way, and then you disengage, you interrupt the cycle. But if you stay to argue about why you deserve respect, you've stepped back into their arena. They will test the boundary. That's predictable. They might laugh. They might minimize. They might accuse you of being too sensitive or dramatic. That's not confusion. That's strategy. They're trying to see if your boundary is real or emotional theater. The moment you repeat yourself calmly, I won't continue this conversation if I'm being insulted, and then actually walk away, something shifts. You become unpredictable, and unpredictability weakens control. A boundary without consequence is just a suggestion. But a boundary with consistent action, that's power. You don't need to shout it. You don't need to justify it. You don't need to convince them it's fair. You simply enforce it. And when they realize they can no longer access you the way they used to, when they feel the door close instead of bend, that's when the imbalance begins to tip. Now let's talk about the fourth move, the one that quietly dismantles their illusion of superiority. The fourth move that instantly weakens a narcissist is this stop seeking their validation. This one cuts deep, because somewhere along the way, you were conditioned to believe that if they approved of you, you were worthy. If they praised you, you were enough. If they were disappointed, you had failed. That is the invisible leash. Narcissists position themselves as the judge, the evaluator, the one who decides whether you're good, intelligent, attractive, competent. And when you keep trying to win their approval, you hand them authority over your identity. But here's the truth that breaks the spell. Their validation was never about your worth. It was about control. The moment you stop asking was that okay? The moment you stop waiting for their nod, their compliment, their permission, you reclaim something sacred, your self-definition. And they feel it. They feel the shift when you no longer light up at their praise, when you no longer shrink at their criticism, when their approval stops being oxygen. It unsettles them because they cannot dominate someone who does not need their applause. This doesn't mean you become cold or arrogant. It means you become internally anchored. You make decisions based on your values, not their moods. You approve of yourself. And when that happens, their power collapses quietly. Not dramatically, not explosively, just steadily. Because a narcissist without an audience is just a performer without a stage. Now, let's move to the fifth and final smart move, the one that changes everything permanently. The fifth move that instantly weakens a narcissist is this: detach emotionally, not dramatically. Let me explain the difference. Dramatic detachment is loud. It's blocking, announcing, threatening, posting quotes online, making sure they see that you're done. And narcissists, they can work with that. Drama still gives them emotional access. Emotional detachment is quiet. It's when you stop hoping they'll change. It's when you stop replaying conversations in your head. It's when their praise doesn't elevate you and their insults don't shatter you. It's not about cutting contact overnight, although sometimes that's necessary. It's about cutting the emotional cord. You respond, but you don't invest. You listen, but you don't absorb. You engage, but you don't attach. And that calm distance, it confuses them, because narcissists rely on emotional hooks. If they can't hook your guilt, your anger, your longing, your jealousy, they start to feel powerless. When you emotionally detach, you stop being reactive supply. You become neutral territory. And neutrality feels like rejection to someone who needs a constant emotional dominance. Here's the powerful part: you don't detach because you hate them. You detach because you choose peace over chaos, and peace is something they cannot manipulate. Now that you understand the 5 smart moves, we're going deeper. Because knowing them is one thing, embodying them is another. Let's talk about why these moves work on a psychological level. Now, let's go deeper, because when you understand why these moves work, you stop using them as tactics, and you start embodying them as identity. A narcissist's entire structure is built on fragile self-worth. On the outside, you see confidence, sometimes arrogance. But underneath that, there is an intense fear of insignificance. They regulate their self-esteem through external control. If they can dominate your emotions, they feel stable. If they can rewrite reality and make you doubt yourself, they feel superior. If they can keep you chasing approval, they feel important. That's the psychological engine. So when you stop explaining yourself, you remove their ability to debate you into submission. When you control your emotional reactions, you remove their ability to provoke power. When you enforce boundaries, you remove their access. When you stop seeking validation, you remove their authority. When you detach emotionally, you remove their supply. And when supply disappears, instability begins. This is why they may escalate at first. That they might increase criticism. They might play the victim. They might suddenly become charming again. That isn't transformation. That's panic. You are disrupting the control loop. And here's the most empowering truth of all these moves. Don't just weaken a narcissist. They strengthen you. You become less reactive, more centered, more self-defined. You stop trying to win a game that was never designed for you to win. And in that shift, something radical happens. You stop shrinking. Now let's talk about what to expect when you start applying these moves in real life. When you begin using these moves, don't expect applause. Expect resistance. The moment you stop explaining yourself, they'll accuse you of being distant. The moment you stay calm, they'll say you don't care. The moment you enforce a boundary, they'll call you controlling. The moment you stop seeking validation, they'll say you've changed. And here's the truth you have, but not in the way they mean it. You've changed from accessible to self-protective, from reactive to regulated, from approval-seeking to self-assured. And that shift threatens the old dynamic. Narcissists rely on predictability. They rely on knowing exactly which buttons to push and what response they'll get. When your response changes, the system destabilizes. You might see 3 common reactions. First, escalation. They push harder to see if your boundary is real. Second, charm. Sudden compliments, sudden affection, promises of change. Third, victimhood. You're abandoning me. You're overreacting. You've become cold. This is not coincidence. It's strategy. And this is where most people fold, not because they're weak, but because they're empathetic. You don't want to hurt anyone. You don't want to be misunderstood. But growth often looks like betrayal to someone who benefited from your lack of boundaries. Stay steady. The discomfort you feel is not guilt, it's adjustment. Your nervous system is recalibrating to a healthier pattern. And the longer you hold your ground, the clearer something becomes their power was never absolute, it was conditional. Now, let's talk about the deeper transformation happening inside you as you do this work. Here's what most people don't realize. When you use these moves, the real change isn't just in your relationship with the narcissist. It's in your relationship with yourself. You start noticing patterns you used to ignore. The gaslighting, the emotional manipulation, the guilt, tripping that used to make your chest tighten. And instead of questioning your sanity, you see the truth clearly. You were being manipulated. That clarity is liberating. It feels like breathing fresh air after years of smoke. Every boundary you enforce reinforces your self-respect. Every moment of emotional control strengthens your resilience. Every time you refuse to seek their validation, you reclaim a piece of your self-worth. And here's the magic. Narcissists hate it because they can't change your internal landscape. They can't push buttons that no longer exist. Your power grows quietly, invisibly, but relentlessly. You start realizing something profound. The world does not define your value. No person, no criticism, no manipulation has that power anymore. Your peace, your confidence, your self-trust, these are yours to protect. The more grounded you become, the more unpredictable you are to them. And unpredictability is weakness to a narcissist. They crave control. They fear independence. They panic when their tactics fail. This transformation is not about defeating them. It's about ascending beyond them. It's about living fully in your emotional truth while they remain trapped in theirs. Here's the final truth: the power to weaken a narcissist has always been inside you. These 5 moves: stopping explanations, controlling reactions, enforcing boundaries, refusing validation, and detaching emotionally, are not tricks. They are expressions of self-respect, courage, and clarity. When you embody them, you stop playing by their rules. You no longer give them the emotional access they crave. You no longer exist in their drama. And that is the ultimate disruption. That is the quiet but devastating blow to their control. You may notice resistance. You may face charm, escalation, or accusations. That's predictable. But none of it diminishes your strength. You are not required to react. You are not required to justify. You are required only to protect your peace. And here's the most liberating part in weakening a narcissist: you do not harm yourself. You reclaim yourself. You reclaim your boundaries, your emotions, your dignity, your sanity. You learn that your value is not conditional on anyone's approval, manipulation, or recognition. So take this power and hold it firmly. It's non-negotiable. Your calm, your clarity, your boundaries, these are your armor. And when you walk in this armor, you step out of their influence permanently. Remember this: a narcissist thrives on your chaos, but you thrive in your peace. Choose peace, stand firm, and never apologize for protecting yourself. The game has changed, and now it is yours to win.